Marilyn, welcome to the program. What got you into theater?
Oh, jeez. I really have to tell you that if I could do life all over, if we could go back, okay, if we could go back to the beginning, I think that there's not really any doubt that I would have gone into show business. I really would have. But my mom and dad, they didn't recognize my interest.
Okay.
They didn't. Are you
see sure they didn't recognize it, or they just said she's not doing that? Because we know how those stories go too.
Yeah,
like, we see it and we're like, mm-mm.
Well, and I think that's true in part also because they want to give you the practical side of life. They want to be able to be sure that you can take care of yourself. And so of course that was the direction that I went in, was the practical side of life.
Right. Which was?
Well, I went to work initially for an oil and gas company. Actually,
really?
Well, that's not exactly true. I actually went to work for a hospital first. Yes,
okay.
I went to work for Herman Hospital.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
As?
I worked in their collection department.
Okay.
Would you believe I was making $325 a month? That's
in collections.
That's what.
Does that mean you have to be mean?
No, our approach was not a mean approach. It really was not. And back then, a really expensive hospital bill, because we had one that was involved in a lawsuit relative to a train accident, and it was about $125,000.
That was a lot.
And that was a lot of money.
It's still a lot, but not like it is.
Yeah, but I mean, now that it would be in the millions. But,
right.
But yeah, that was the first thing that I did, and I worked for them for a number of years, and then I married, and then later I did go to work for an oil and gas company by the name of it had been known as Signal Oil and Gas, the old Signal Oil and Gas company that was located in California.
Okay.
And then an English company came in by the name of Burma, and they bought them. And eventually they wound up moving here to Houston from California, and then they were acquired by the great big R.J. Reynolds company. Now, anyway, a lot of that is history, of course, but and life just kind of marches on. You get married and you have other responsibilities and one thing and another, and you don't really have the time that you want to give yourself, for the things that are really very meaningful to you, because you're too busy trying to take care of the practical side of life.
So what kind of things did you do in elementary, junior high, high school? Did you do any theater, or did you do sports? What did you do?
No. Whenever I was in elementary school, I remember the very first thing that I ever did, and I was in an elementary talent show. Mm-hmm. And I sang the song Sugar Shack. Do you remember the song? Do you remember the
Sugar Shack?
Sugar Shack. That's what I sang.
Why pick Sugar Shack?
I don't know. It was the popular song at the time, and I can remember that. I don't think that I sang it. No, I didn't. I didn't sing it by myself. I sang it with somebody else, but I don't remember who. But I think there was one or possibly two other people that I sang it with. And I was always involved in whatever music programs there were in school and in church. I was always involved in anything that was relative to music.
Right.
Whenever I was in high school, we had a very well-known group. It was called the Meister Singers, and we used to perform for the junior league and some really very elite groups.
Neat.
Yeah, we did, and we were well known. We had a great time, doing that. So
you did do performance.
Yeah.
Did you solos or from that?
Well, yeah, I did do. I did solos in church. Mm-hmm. Yes, I did. I didn't actively. I really didn't get truly actively involved in theater until 2006, whenever I...
Really? 2006?
Yeah, truly, 2006. Whenever, we did Oklahoma.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that Oklahoma, yes.
Wonderful Oklahoma.
That was your first show?
That was actually my very first.
So first shows Oklahoma. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you prefer, because you have this singing background, do you prefer musicals, or do you?
Yeah, I do. I prefer musicals. Music is really my first love. There's no doubt about it. And I feel like, you know, if I'm going to put all of this energy and money into voice lessons, I ought to try, you know, to put it to good use.
So who do you take voice from?
Oh, from Robert Collette.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful teacher.
So how long have you been taking voice?
I've been taking voice now for about 4 or 5 years.
So you've taken voice for 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You certainly have been doing voice really almost since you were born. So really elementary school, all the way through. So obviously, yeah, this is certainly a passion.
Yeah.
You prefer musicals. Are there musicals you won't do?
That I won't do?
Right. That it's not in you, you don't like the way things are portrayed, it's too dark, whatever. You know, is there a particular musical that you just wouldn't do?
No, I can't think of I can't think of anyone just right off the top of my head that I just absolutely I would not do. No, nothing comes to mind right now. You know, I still would like to do Best Little Whorehouse.
Right.
You know, that's kind of one of those that's on the bucket list. You know?
Okay, so I can tick that off, but you haven't checked that off yet. Okay.
No, I haven't checked that one off. And
about Mama Rose.
About which one?
Mama Rose from Gypsy.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, I'd love to do that one. You bet.
There's a Mama part in Chicago.
And there is a Mama part in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I would die. I would just die to do Hello Dolly. I would just.
Hello, yes. Hello Dolly, yes.
Yeah, or May. You know.
There's a matchmaker. There's
a matchmaker.
Rainmaker. I mean, it can be.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, there's a.
I would really, really like to do. You know, the bad thing about it is, you know, you look back on life and you always have the kind of regrets that you do. You know, what could I have done differently?
Right.
And the things that you know, it's always that field of dreams.
Sure.
So regrets in that I wasn't able to get started in theater sooner, you know, because, and the reason I say that is because, you know, as we get older, and particularly women, we have fewer and fewer ideal parts available.
Yeah, and hopefully there's some authors that are trying to do that, but you're right. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of stereotypical roles that, you know, you expect this is you got to do or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually the boy meets girl type, you know.
Well, especially musical, right? I mean, not every musical is that way, but most, I mean, if I think about the type of musicals you see at Broadway,
yeah,
generally you're going to see upbeat, uplifting, and it's the same story, right? Just cast in a different way.
Yeah.
True.
You got
there are other things, but they don't tend to do as well. Or don't tend to last.
No, and they don't.
Right. Well, let's go back. Who got you into Oklahoma?
Karen Strong.
Karen
Strong.
What's she doing these days?
Well, you know, Karen's divorced now, but Karen was one of my clients.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
Client says.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, she's one of my real estate clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you start real estate?
I've been in real estate. I would say probably a good 15 years.
Okay, so it's a long time. Yes.
Long time.
And so she was one of your clients.
And she was one of my clients, and you know, of course, she and her children were involved in the theater.
Yes.
And that's what sparked my interest. And I almost did not come to audition that Sunday. That Sunday afternoon for Oklahoma. I came so close to not coming. I came up the stairs there in the rehearsal hall up above the theater, the green, you know, upstairs. And I was the last person that Marty Crighton auditioned.
Thanks, Zach. I heard a silly ding, and I want to make sure we didn't miss something. We'll continue. Okay. So, did Karen prepare you for auditions? That's like, this is how it goes, this is where you go, and, you know, I know Marty, and she's looking for...
Yes, I mean, she did do that. She told me, she said, you'll have to fill out an audition form. Correct. And she said, and you'll have to sing, you know, and you can choose whatever song it is that you want to sing. But she said that she was telling me, she said it's really, you know, a pretty comfortable environment, and that she knew Marty, and that, you know, Marty was pretty easy to work with.
Right.
And so, and I did, but I was the last person. I almost just didn't come. And I auditioned with the song Summertime.
Summertime.
Mm-hmm. I sure did. So
did you know anyone in the room? I assume Karen was there, right?
Karen was there.
Was Bonnie there too? Wasn't Bonnie? No?
I'm
trying to remember who else was in Oklahoma, because we did see that, yeah, but we weren't in it.
I don't know if Bonnie was there or not. I don't remember that. But yeah, Karen was there, but that's all I, yeah, but she was the only person that I knew. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Do that, and obviously you got a part, right? Chorus or what?
I was in, yes, I was in the chorus.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can remember coming out on Butch Walker's arm. You know.
Oh, you know what? I know I saw that, but I can't remember Butch in it. That doesn't mean he wasn't. You know, except there were a lot of people in it. It's a musical. There are a lot of people in a musical. It was a huge musical.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I would love to have seen Butch on stage. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was, and he, you know, he was walking with a cane at the time. You know, but it was. I don't know. It's interesting what moments in a show will stick with you, and that's one of the moments that really stuck with me, was walking out on stage.
So you're okay with that? You were in the chorus, but you're okay with that?
Oh, I was okay with that. Sure, absolutely.
Well, it's kind of odd because sometimes people minimize chorus. They think, I'm just in the chorus, but you know, without the chorus, you don't really fill out that sound that you really need. Musical, and there's a lot. Usually, there's a lot of dancing and singing. You know, you know, sometimes you can get some little mini solos. You know.
Well, you know, and particularly with Marty, because Marty really uses her chorus people, and she works them. And you know, I think about the ladies that do the dancing. You know, in this show and in Cinderella, and I think about how hard they work to get those dance steps just right. Right. And
well, Marty worked her dancers too.
And she worked her dancers too. So to me, I don't ever minimize, you know, the chorus by any means. You know, they play a vital role, and when you don't have them, you don't have the fullness.
You know it.
You know it.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, you don't have that fullness that you really need.
Absolutely.
That glues it all together. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the chorus is really very important, and I didn't mind at all. I was just delighted to have a part.
Sure.
You know, I was pleased to have a part.
So Oklahoma was your first show. You got grease paint in your blood now.
Oh yeah.
Then what?
Yeah. Well, then after that was Fair Lady.
Oh, that was your second?
That was my second show.
No way.
Fair Lady was my second show.
That's right, because you and Carolyn were there. There was Scarlett, right?
Yeah.
Slops was there. I'm trying to think of some others.
Yeah.
David? I can't remember.
Yes, David. David did the what's his last name? Can't remember.
The professor, right?
Yeah, he did the part of the professor, and of course Debbie Reed was.
Debbie Reed was in there, yes, of course.
Yeah, although she never. I don't even think she made it to opening night, if I remember.
I can't remember. I know that she got ill.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how much she actually did.
I don't think she even made it to opening night, and she so regretted that. You know. It becomes somewhat of a point of humor, although some of it is really not humorous, and that is that I've heard it said that there is a Fair Lady curse.
I guess I haven't heard of this one. What about the Fair Lady curse?
Well, you know, of course, Debbie got sick and she passed away about a year later, and Barbara's husband, Gene.
Okay, yes, Gene, yes.
There, okay, Gene Polnick.
Yes.
Well, you know, he fell down the stairs and dislocated his shoulder.
During My Fair Lady?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and had to be taken to the emergency room. And I fell down the stairs.
Yeah.
And after the show was over, I found out that I had torn the ligaments in my wrist and had to have 2 surgeries.
Oh dear.
Yes. And Don Johnson, he got sick right after the show. I mean, so that's the reason why they call it the Fair Lady.
It seems like if you get enough people together, things happen.
Yeah.
You know, whether you give a disease, whatever, a sickness to someone, it just seems like things happen, and people die.
Well, but you know, and that's true though, because you have just so many people. You know, and so, yeah, something is, you hate to say something is sure to happen, but when you're working with that many people, something is going to go on.
Well, let's talk about My Fair Lady, other than everybody can sing.
Oh.
That was a massive set. I mean, you know,
It was.
incredible musical.
Well, look at the costuming.
Oh, the costuming, yeah.
The costuming was just, you know, poor Lynn Peveril. I mean, she did.
She did a lot of costumes on a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
And she managed to
And
do
she
it.
managed to do it.
She managed to do it.
Yeah. But
Just
that was a really great show. And I think that was the first time that I was paired up with John Thebes.
First time?
Yeah,
Really?
because we were Lord and Lady Boxington.
That's weird. You know what? I don't see John. I saw it because Carolyn was at it, so I must have seen just about every show. And I don't remember. It's just one of the things that didn't stick in my mind. But one, like AJ. I know AJ was in that, remember? I'm getting married in the morning.
Oh, yes. I remember really well.
Okay, what's going on?
I remember really well. I think it's the first time that I've ever been slapped on my posterior about 3 times.
As part of the show.
As part of the show.
Yes.
You know. But yeah. And there were times in that show when he was, he had to swing around and he would just choose whichever woman whose eyes would catch him and dance with him. And there were times that he turned around and, I mean, he looked like a deer in headlights, just trying to figure out who he was going to grab to dance those few steps with, you know. So, yeah, that was a good show.
Is he a band director? Or what was it? I mean, he teaches in Katy. I don't think that he teaches way far away from here. But he lives up in this area.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And he actually is not a... he does have... He actually does have a guitar class.
Yeah.
He does. But he teaches drama.
Oh, he does teach drama. Who else was in My Fair Lady? I think it's some others. Said John was that was the first time you guys were paired up.
Yeah, that was the first time that we were paired up.
So did you know this was going to happen for?
Absolutely not. No way. I mean, you know, if people had any idea, I mean, he the way I think that our shall we say our stage relationship is that it's kind of like old husband wife, because one day he said to me. He said, listen, he said, you're going to have to tell me. He said, I'll miss my cue. If you don't remind me of such and such and so-and-so, I'll forget. He said, so you remind me. I said, oh, all right. I'll remind you. And so, anyway, the next time I reminded him, he looked at me and he said, you sound just like my wife. And I said,
no way.
What do you want? You cannot have it both ways. One way or another. You know, take your pick. And so anyway, that's kind of how the story begins.
Oh,
but
dear.
yeah, but Wendy Sims was in
yes.
Fair Lady, Scarlet Zernosis,
Yeah.
Terry Woods.
Yes, Terry was in. That's right.
Was Terry Lynn Hale in it?
Was,
Yes, she was. Yes. She played a Pretty Boy's mother.
oh, okay.
He's a friend of mine on Facebook. I can't remember his name right now. He doesn't live here anymore. He's living in Canada. You know, the suitor. Remember the suitor that was so interested?
Yeah, escapes me too. But.
Yeah, I can't remember his name right now. But anyway, you know, and that was kind of an interesting story because he just kind of showed up and walked into the theater at the last minute and auditioned for that part and got it. And just, he did a beautiful job on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that was a great time. It was a great show. I mean, packed houses. So that was your second. I can't believe that was your second. I'm surely there must have been something in between those.
No, you know, it was 06, Oklahoma, 07 was Fair Lady.
And then 08 would be Buddy Holly, right?
08 was Buddy Holly.
Yes.
Yes.
Which we had Ike as well.
Yeah.
I think that was Ike.
I don't know. It was Ike, Katrina, and
well, one of those.
Whatever.
You know,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that probably out of all the shows, I think that probably Buddy Holly is the one that is the most memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Molly. Good was the stage manager, and
Yes.
and she was being told, oh, you know what, this is a simple set. And the more this went on and on, she ended up building this huge stage crew of like 6 of us. It was I think myself, Carolyn, Tom Lockhart, Elise was in there. I think she was having a problem, but she also helped move stuff. And I don't know, at least 3 or 4 others, because at least 6 of us moving stuff. It looks like it was one big workout. Stop moving on, stupid off. The only time we got to rest was in the second act, where you had the 6 or 8 songs back to back.
Yes.
We could go up in the balcony and enjoy it. If there were seats.
If there were seats.
If there were seats, and I would be way, way, way back. But it was a great time. It was a good time. Drew was just incredible.
Oh, he was.
No ego whatsoever. Not, your typical, no, but he was great.
Yeah. And I think Drew is working, I think he's working for Disney now.
Is he? Yeah.
I think so, out in Florida, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But, I think that one's the most memorable, and, I don't know how many packed houses we played to, but, I mean, it was like turning, we turned that old vaudeville theater into a rock concert palace is what we did.
Yeah, and people had a great time.
And they did.
They from far away. I'm sure they came to see it over and over again.
Yeah.
Even the week that we were off, the hiatus, because of Katrina, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's it still didn't stop. People, we still, it's okay, we're taking off this week because of next week, so they rescheduled it for next week. No problem.
No problem.
Fill the houses,
and we just kept going. And of course, I guess that the part that I played of, the silly snowbird that lost her stocking is
all the time.
All the time.
It was hilarious.
It's kind of become my trademark because people still talk about it, and I guess that's the mark of a trademark is when people when something sticks with someone to that extent. And the way that whole scene came about was that Marty had told the 4 of us, Donetta, Uli Engling, I have to really think about her name, and Wendy Sims and myself, and then I can't remember her name right now, but the young girl that played Buddy Holly's wife. Marty had told us, she said, I want all of you to be doing something different.
Right.
And it's up to you. You decide whatever it is you want to do, but I don't want all of you doing the same thing.
Right.
And so, I got to thinking about some of the things that occurred, during that time frame of my life. Not quite as old as the Buddy Holly story, but just the same. It's still, within my frame of reference. And I got to thinking about something that I thought was really kind of funny and kind of different, and that was that one time in downtown Houston, I was going to work one morning, and I was walking across Main Street,
right.
And I actually lost my stocking.
Oh, dear.
It turned loose and it fell. And so that's how the whole concept, came about. Now, one of the reasons I purposely postponed this interview today, okay, was that I had something that I really wanted to bring with me. And Anthony Al Rafai, who played the big bass player in Buddy Holly's band. Okay. Well, his brother came up to me, and I think it was at the cast party at Marty's house. He came up to me, and he asked me for that stocking.
What?
He wanted that stocking. He wanted that stocking. And I said, no. I said, I don't really think that the stocking is really for giveaway.
Right.
And I have kept in my collection of stage memorabilia. I took and I cut the hosiery part of the stocking off, but this is the top to that very stocking that hung around my ankle every performance night.
Oh dear.
And I actually had people tell me that they thought that the stocking really fell during the show. They really did. They thought it fell during the show rather than, it already having been there, of course, when I entered the stage. But
wow.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
Yeah,
it was.
Great
time.
It was terrific.
And so we did Buddy Holly. So after Buddy Holly, then what?
Oh, I don't know. That would take us up to, what about 2009, something like that. I know somewhere in between this, I did Miracle on 34th Street. I did Southern Hospitality, which was the first one that I did with Stage Right.
Which was an interesting part because I know a lot of people didn't think you could do it, and why is that?
Yeah, because Aunt Iney was such a mean hater.
And I guess you'd been typecast because you've been doing the musicals. You've been typecast as the comedian, the funny, and I know people say, like, Marilyn, no, she can't do that. And I said, no, look, she's a good actress. She can do it. Just give her a chance. She can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, that's what being an actress is all about, is that, I mean, you have to have some flexibility, and I was glad to have the part. I remember Jillian Nolan, saying, but can she be mean? And Molly would tell her, just watch her. She can be mean. So, but yeah.
I'm thinking the scene where you supposedly died in Southern Hospitality, but the one night something happened. I don't know what happened.
Well, what happened was that, of course, I was at the table. I supposedly died, at the breakfast table. And so the chair I was sitting in was an old office chair.
Right.
Well, it was purposely a chair on wheels because they had to wheel me off the stage. Well, the wheels on the chair, and then, of course, they had to cover me. They covered me up because they were hiding me. They didn't want anybody to know. There were people that were coming into the house, and they didn't want anybody to know that I was dead. And so the way that they were going to camouflage me was to take this gigantic Afghan and put it over the top of me, which is what they did. And then they stuck a plant on top of me, on my lap. So I'm kind of up underneath this Afghan, and I'm kind of holding this plant. And I can see through the weaves of the Afghan.
Oh, yeah.
So I get to see everything that's going on.
Right.
Well, anyway, so Kevin comes along, and he has to wheel me off the stage. He has to take me through the kitchen door. Well, what happened was that old wheel on that chair, it locked.
Right.
And he kept pushing it, and the wheel wasn't turning. And so the next thing I knew, I was on the stage floor. And the whole audience was just hysterical in laughter. And I guess they probably thought that it was part of the script. I don't know. Well, Amy Sowers was, she was doing her thing, and she told me later, she was actually ad-libbing. She was adding stuff in to buy time.
Right.
While everybody else tried to get me off the stage. Well, when I found out later that people backstage, when they saw me moving underneath the Afghan, they thought I was crying.
Well, we didn't know because we weren't laughing because we knew it wasn't part of the script. So we're going, oh, what is she okay? What can we do? But it's not kind of hard to.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know when I'm supposed to be dead under this blanket, and I can't say anything to anybody. I can't move. I can't. And I was laughing so hard that I could not even help in any way whatsoever for them to get me through that doorway and get me off the stage.
Right.
And Kevin was saying, just get her off the stage, get her off the stage, and anyway, so Amy was out, in the footlights, and she was ad-libbing to try to give us enough time to get me off. Mm-hmm. So that was just hysterical. That was so funny. And I still, because I'm friends with Kevin on Facebook, and every once in a while I mention to him,
Did you drop me?
Yeah. You dropped me, remember? You dropped me. You dropped Aunt Iney.
It seems like after Southern Hospitality, I seem to remember you doing Damn Yankees.
I did. I did Damn Yankees for Lone Star Tombo.
Right.
I did. And I played the part of Meg. That was a really good show, but that will really put you to the test, as an actor, because you don't have that much time to rehearse. You don't have that many weeks in an academic setting to rehearse, and you put on 4 shows within about 2 days, something like that, 2 to 3 days.
That's it.
And that's it. It's done and over with. You're finished. Right. So yes, that was that one put me to the test.
Did you have a lot of dancing?
I did have some, but it was only right at the end. It wasn't that much dancing, not in that show. No, not at all. But it was a good show. The thing that I remember about that one that was a real challenge for me was that, you know, we had, you know, in the storyline you have a young Joe, I believe it is, and an old Joe.
Right.
And the two people that played those parts, they were actually father and son.
Oh, really?
Yes. Can't remember their first names right now, but their last name is Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
And I do occasionally run into them. The younger Barnes, by the way, married the ballerina from Oklahoma. Do you remember the young ballerina in Oklahoma?
No.
Don't you remember?
Ballerina.
There was a ballerina.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a scene where it's a dream scene.
Yes, I remember the trees.
Okay.
Yes.
Amy. Anyway, they married.
How about that?
Yeah. But yeah, the biggest challenge in that one was that there was one number where the three of us had to sing, and it was. I don't want to say that it was exactly counterpoint, but it was kind of similar to that.
Okay.
And it was a real challenge to get all the pieces to come together. I don't think we got it right until probably opening night.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great show, though. It is.
It is, and I'm surprised that nobody else has done it other than the school. I would have thought that. And it's a great show.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful show. And then
Was that 2009? So it was the summer of 2009, right?
I think that's right. Let me see, because last year I did Sound of Music.
Right.
And then what would I have done? Yeah, that would have been. I'm pretty sure that's 2009.
Oh, right,
that
2009.
Yeah, that I did Damn Yankees.
Because I think it seemed like at that time you were branching out. And you concentrated primarily on the Crighton, but now you were starting to go to different places, like Lone Star.
That's right.
1960? I feel like you did something in 1960.
That's what.
Victoria.
Yes, and I did Inherit the Wind.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that must have been 2010 when I did.
Okay.
Yeah, Inherit the Wind. It is not a musical. It is a straight play. I don't think there's any music in it. And
So that'd be your first grade? No, it wouldn't be your first grade. That's hospitality would have been. All right.
right.
Okay. Just the first play in 1960. Yeah. Thanks.
Right. It was that was fun. That was fun to do that. Obviously, it's a very serious show.
Yes.
It's a very serious show. But I did enjoy it. I didn't do. I played a character in there who was, of all things, she was the boarding house lady.
Mm-hmm.
So she was into real estate, so to speak. And but she owned the boarding house, in the town there. So, but yeah, it was a good part. I enjoyed that.
So after Inherit the Wind, then you did.
Well, let me see. Inherit the
Miracle
Wind. Let me see. It seems like Miracle on 34th Street was before Inherit the Wind, because Tom did. That was.
So did you do it with Tom?
I did it with Tom.
So that's before. No, it had to be before because they were still at the Crighton.
Yeah.
They were still at the Crighton. So yeah, because Tom did it. He was one of those where he said he was always on stage, pretty much, or getting changed to go back on stage.
Absolutely, but he made such a fantastic Santa.
He enjoyed that part. People that do that, they want to do it again, and he definitely wants to do it again, no matter how much effort it took.
Yeah. And I mean, I have a picture that I really cherish, and that's a picture of the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Him in his Santa outfit, and me in my caroling garb, because we all wore black evening wear, for the caroling crew. But yeah, that would have been before Inherit the Wind. I'm trying to think of. And of course, I've done many of the New Year's Eve shows.
Yes.
With the Crighton
Right.
players.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy that because, it requires a certain number of rehearsals, but it's not quite as rigorous.
That is intense, right? You work on your own thing, pretty much you're done. Yeah.
And that's it.
Do it, yeah.
And you get to come to the theater that evening, you get to enjoy the people that you like to be around, and you get to perform, so it works really well.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about acting in general. Do you have any actors that you admire, that you try to follow their style? What's your favorite actor or actress?
Oh, jeez, I don't know. Love Bernadette Peters.
Really? Yes.
Yes. And I went to her show at the Opera House in Galveston a number of years ago and met her at the back door.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, met her at the back door. She was dressed in a beautiful white sequined gown, and she was getting ready to get, in her limousine. But she's very fan friendly.
Well,
and
not everyone is.
And not everybody else, And so I was able to get her.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think she seems to be timeless, and I don't mean just what she does, but age-wise. She seems to be the same as she was then 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, she's just absolutely gorgeous and seems to remain that way. So, but yeah, I think, she's the one that would come to mind right now.
Right.
I just really am. And I can remember when she was first, and she's actually been acting and singing since she was about 4 years old.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But I remember when she kind of, I guess, became more, she stepped more into the spotlight,
right.
Many years ago. And she was on Johnny Carson.
Yes.
And, quite young then. And what I admire about her is the fact that when she performs, when she sings with her whole soul.
Yes.
And to me, when you love your music, that is the way that it comes out. And so often, the tears would roll down her face because, it had to go somewhere.
Right.
She had so much to put out there. And I really admire that. It's one of the things that I think is really important as a vocalist, is that you deliver what you really feel. And
right.
I was talking with Robert Collette about that one day, and I told him, I said, there's so much more inside of me
right.
than I feel like I can deliver on as quality a basis as I want it to be.
Right.
Okay. And it continues to improve.
Right.
But there's still so much more improvement to make, and there's so much more that I feel like I have. And he told me, he said, you will find that to be true as time goes along, more and more. He said, you will feel that there is so much more inside that you can
give.
Yeah.
Some people with lesser talent that can evoke those emotions,
right.
right? And even though they're not as talented,
yes,
it comes through and it's real, and you connect.
That's
I think
right.
for us, let's talk about Carol Channing. Really doesn't have much of a voice, but you know what?
Yeah.
Somehow people had a connection with her, otherwise she wouldn't have made it. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right, because there are a lot of personalities that, they sing, they're just really not that good
right.
vocalizing.
But
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because they've somehow made that connection.
Yes.
And they've made it real.
That's right.
So you obviously do have the talent, but you also want to take it to, not say necessarily take it to the next level, but to take the emotion that's within you and let it be expressed, let's say,
Yeah.
in the most honest, true, best that it can be.
Right. And, I think that when I get to that point, I think that for me, it's going to be at a point where I'm really satisfied with the quality of my vocals and what I deliver. Because I seldom ever walk away from a song and say, I did it, and I did it absolutely to my satisfaction.
Right.
And of course, there's nobody that is more critical of oneself than yourself.
Right.
And I get really unhappy with myself when I don't at least get it on some sort of a satisfactory level. Because I know it's possible for me to do that, But when you get up there and you start to perform, and needless to say, your nerves are playing
Sure.
into this. You know, they have to. And you have all of this stuff that's running through your head. It only takes that much slip of focus, and you're gonna lose something. And it's another problem, and I kind of bring this to light at this point because recently I've been subbing for Robert at the church where he sings because he's
yes.
their vocalist, you know.
Yes.
And I've been subbing for him because he's been ill. And Dave Englert,
Right.
you know, plays. But I rehearse with Robert on a grand piano, and then I have to perform with a pipe organ.
It's a little different, huh?
All it takes is some of Dave's wonderful little frilly additions into that music, and all of a sudden the ear, you know, can really mess your head up.
Well, you know, this not this particular in exact way, but yeah, we've heard that too. That people doing musicals need kind of this constancy, if you will.
They do.
In some ways, that's why they like the canned music better, because they know exactly what's going to be. And anything that's a little off can throw them.
It does.
You're not the first person to mention that.
It does.
Yeah.
It really, it doesn't take very much at all, and it throws me off. But it's part of what I guess you have to learn how to adjust to.
Sure.
You know, as a performer, you just do that. But yeah, I think I will feel that I have arrived when I can relatively satisfy what I know I have to give. Maybe
Right.
that's the best way of putting it. Robert has told me, you know, I used the word perfect one time.
Right.
He said, you need to get over that. He
That'd be perfect.
We need to get over that. Okay, all right, we'll work on that. So yeah, and I've got a little ways, you know, to go on that, yeah, for sure.
So tell me what you're doing now.
Currently with Cinderella,
Right.
you know, I get to play the part of Prince Charming, Prince Christopher. His rather slightly devious, patronizing regal mother, and she is determined that she wants to get him married off because she'd like to have a dance. But more importantly, because she's really having, you know, I think she's, to some degree, she's kind of having some shades of empty nest type stuff going on, you know, because she's interested in having those grandchildren,
Yes.
you know, and so she is working, she is putting all of her majestic efforts into play to get him married off. And so, and of course, John Thies, you know, he plays the king who can't fit into his trousers for the big ball because he looks like 5 pounds of flour in a 2-pound sack. So
did you know this version of Cinderella before? I mean, obviously everyone knows the name Cinderella, but there's actually so many different versions of Cinderella. This is a version. You know?
No, I had no idea. I did not know that. You know, and when I try to explain to people what it's like,
Right.
you know, the best I can do is to say, well, it's the Rodgers and Hammerstein music mixed with a flair of Whitney Houston movie, and on top of that, we have some of the Disney childlike animation stuff.
Yes.
And that's the best.
That's the best, yeah.
That's the best I can give them on it, you know. And then, of course, you try to explain that it's really a Broadway production, and so it very much appeals to the adult audience, but because it has all of this little childlike fairy tale stuff in
Right.
it, you know, the children will they'll eat it up.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure that everyone, you know, and you know, there's all these different stories about, you know, the Cinderella complex, and it's that really good thing to have as a role model for girls, and you know, yada yada. But at the end of the day, it still seems to be very popular.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think about if you go to Disney World, who do you probably want to see? You know, it's like, well, you probably want to run into, you know, Mickey Mouse, of course, but Cinderella.
But
Cinderella's castle. That's what you see, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I love the music in this show. I think Rodgers and Hammerstein did a beautiful job on the music. The background music. You know, what we're all singing off stage whenever,
right.
you know, the fairy godmother is out there doing her stuff and her magic and waving her wand and one thing and another. And you know, you have to listen to it and realize that they wrote that music so that it would sound fantastical, mm-hmm. you know, and with all of the high floating notes that are in it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you did a good job on it.
This is interesting too because, you know, in film, a lot of scenes tend to be underscored by music, but not generally musicals. This has got a lot of talking that underscored with music, more so than a typical musical.
You know, and that I must tell you that at first I didn't like the idea of the recorded music.
Right.
I said, you know, to me, part of the charm of a musical is having a live orchestra.
Right.
But I don't think we could do this show if it wasn't recorded music.
That, you know, it's just tough. I mean, every theater group has had to battle with this, and obviously they would love to have the live orchestra all the time. But you know, we have, I guess it's at least 16 pieces. Caleb, you know, and Dave, you know, the 16-piece orchestra. We can't even fit them underneath them.
No.
You know, much less try to figure out how to get them to, you know, match up all these little things. You know, because not everything's going to time exactly.
Well, to get this show, to have done this show to where it was
right.
going to be the quality that I know it's going to be,
right.
because I thought the first run-through that we did last Friday night, I
right.
thought that was really superb.
Uh-huh.
You know, for a first run-through.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But for us to have been able to get this show put together this well, we'd have had to have had the orchestra there every night.
And that's only happened one time in every show we've ever done, and it was Annie. And the only reason is that the orchestra volunteered. They were paid this ever so minimally, and they showed up for every rehearsal. Every rehearsal. That's very unusual because most time musicians, not to the background, but musicians tend to think of the musical or anything as a gig, which means if I'm not being paid, why am I here?
Why am I here?
But unfortunately, the cast needs it. They need to hear it, like we talked about, over and over and over again.
That's right.
So it becomes almost one.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is either have not just the rehearsal recording, because that's just piano or whatever. No, you need to sound the way it's going to sound in performance.
Absolutely.
Right? Which means you have to have them there every night.
You do. You have to have them there every night because it's just what we were saying. It doesn't take much at all to throw the whole thing off.
Right.
And there's just not on this show. And I've never done a show like this. I've never done a musical where we have all of this music under all of these lines.
Yes, that's right. Which means it's got to be timed perfectly, right?
I mean, and I'm up there, and I'm dancing. I'm dancing with Louis, otherwise known as Prince Charming, and he's dancing with his mother, the Queen, and we're dancing, and I'm saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm thinking, and he's going, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5, 2, and he's going like this, the whole time, And I learned to stop looking in his eyes because his eyes, there's so much going on in his head that I began to wonder if there was something that I was doing wrong, and I would throw my cues off.
Right.
So I stopped looking in his eyes. I stopped doing that. So, and then the other thing, you can ask me what I'm doing right now,
right.
and other than Cinderella, I've been filling in for Robert at
right.
his church, and then starting in September, I'll
right.
resume my position with the Lutheran Church in Spring
right.
as their first year soprano.
Wow.
Yeah, and
say resume. So you were there before?
Yeah, I was there before,
right.
And I started working with them back around Easter.
Okay.
Because their first year soprano was going to be leaving,
right.
And so they needed somebody
mm-hmm.
To fill that, and so I started working with them then, and they take the summers off.
Okay.
So their last performance is the one that they do for Armed Forces Day, and then which is in May, and then they resume again, I think, end of August or first part of September, something like that. And so, and they have a wonderful choir and a wonderful music program there, but it's a smaller group.
Right.
And so they heavily depend on having somebody to be able to carry that melody.
Wow.
And they have more altos as far as women are concerned than what they have sopranos. So that's the reason, that they have somebody they can count on to be there. So
it sounds like between work and that, and then the singing, that takes up at least 9 months of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. And then I fit in, a summer show, like this, and then weave my my real estate business, in between all of this, and even though real estate has been on a very difficult downslide, the past couple of years, I've really tried to hold on to it as best I could, because I know that it's one of the few professions that I can do that allows me to do all of these other things that require, some flexibility and dedication and time and that sort of thing. So, there have been, I don't know the percentage of agents that, have gone by the wayside. I have no idea.
They just quit?
Oh, yeah, they couldn't make a living at it. A lot of the larger, brokerage houses, they closed their doors.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's been a big, big shift. We are beginning to see some real change. It is happening. But then Houston never, in the Houston surrounding areas, we never were as fully impacted as other areas,
that's right,
of the country. But I'm seeing a definite shift, a definite change.
Well, that's good. I'm hoping it's for the better.
And it is. It's definitely for the better. Thank goodness. Yeah. Well, even the first part of this year, I took a contract job with an engineering firm that my girlfriend works for. And this is down at 59 in Greenbrier. So I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was on the road by 7.
Right.
And off work at 3:30, and then I would come home and take care of my real estate clients, and then head to theater. So, but yeah, that's what I was doing. But you do what you have to do.
Oh, absolutely.
To survive. So
we've talked about some of the roles that you want to do. You do get a chance to take vacations, right? I don't know, you take a vacation, but you do take vacations, right?
Well, it's interesting that you would ask that question, because it's been so long since I've had a vacation.
A real vacation, not one of these 1-2 day things. Yes.
You got it. Right. A real vacation. It's been so long. And my sister-in-law and I were talking about this just the other night. And she was saying something about taking a cruise, and I said, "Oh, you want to take a cruise?" She said, "Yes." And I said, maybe we could work this out. And they have this new Disney line, of course.
Yes, out of Galveston.
Out of Galveston.
Right.
Yeah. So we're starting to check that out and see what we can possibly.
So you've been on a cruise before?
Never been on a cruise.
I've never been on a cruise either. And even people that said, "I didn't think I'd like it," they really enjoyed it.
Yeah. They say, everybody that I know that's been, they say you'll come back, weighing about 3 pounds more, because
all the food.
There's so much food.
But there's so much to do, apparently. There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
You want to play poker all the time? Fine. You probably can do that. You want to see shows? You can do that. You want to work out? You can do that. You want to eat? There's plenty of opportunity.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I've heard just raves about the shows that they do, the food, just the whole experience.
Yeah. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. She's got some time off. She said the last week in July and the first part of August, and I said, well, I have to finish out the show, which takes me through the end of July.
Right.
So we'll probably, if we can patch it all together, we'll probably go the first week in August. So.
Yeah, I think once you get into it, you're going to want to take a whole lot more vacations. I know as I get older, I need more vacation.
I think that's very true.
We need more vacation, and we need more to get away from here. It's like, why do you want to get away? I just want to get away.
You really need it, and things do change. We don't recognize that when we're younger, but things really do change.
Yes.
Your priorities change
Absolutely.
as you age. Those
Mm-hmm.
things that were important when you were young, they
Yeah.
are not.
No.
So, I think the older I get, the more I want me time, and that's not a statement that's made on a selfish basis.
Right.
It's just that you begin to recognize that all of that work and all that time and all that effort that you put into a career all of those years, suddenly, is it really what matters? You
Right.
know? Big one.
Yes, if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
Well, I don't doubt that heaven very definitely does exist.
Yes.
I know that it does.
Mm.
It may not be what I necessarily want God to say, but I think I know what He would say.
Right.
He'd say, "What are you doing here? Isn't there something that you've left undone?" You know? Because I really honestly believe that I will probably still have so many things undone
Mm-hmm.
by the time that I leave this planet. I think there'll still be so many things that I'll want to do that will be undone. And that's the reason why I think He'll say, "Well, you know, what are you doing here? You arrived a little early." You know?
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I loved this. This was fun. But you know,
Thanks for
actors,
doing
we love to talk, and we love to talk about ourselves. So this was really great.
You know, we were